I killed hydrangeas for 3 years. Not one. 3 years of it. And I want to be specific, because vague failure is easy to wave away, and this was not vague. The first one was a beautiful blue mophead I bought in full bloom, planted in a lovely sunny spot, watered faithfully, and by August it was scorched, crisping at the edges, wilting flat every afternoon, no matter how much I poured on it. It limped through one winter and did not come back. The second one lived. That was almost worse. It got big and green and glossy and healthy, a genuinely handsome shrub, and in 3 years it gave me a grand total of not one single flower. Not one. I fed it, because that is what you do for a plant that will not bloom, and it just got leafier and greener and emptier. The third one I was determined to turn blue. I had read about the soil, I bought the amendments, I poured them on all season, and it stayed the same washed-out pink it had always been. I could not understand what I was doing wrong, because I was, as far as I could tell, doing everything right. And that is the part that made me feel like such a failure. I was not neglecting these plants. I was not lazy. I read the articles. I followed the care instructions. I watered. I fed. I tidied them up in autumn like the tidy, responsible gardener I thought I was being. And every year I got scorch, or bare green bushes, or the wrong color, or dead wood in spring. I decided I simply could not grow hydrangeas. Some people cannot grow certain plants, I told myself, and this was mine. I was wrong. I did not have a black thumb. I was making one single mistake, over and over, on every one of those plants, and it was the same mistake every time. And once somebody finally explained it to me, 3 years of failure suddenly made complete, total sense in about 30 seconds. And it is almost certainly the same mistake you are making if your hydrangea will not bloom, or will not change color, or comes back green and empty every spring. So let me tell you what it was. Because it is not a technique, and it is not a product, and nobody selling you either one has any reason to tell you. But first, let me tell you how bad it got, because it got worse before it got better. Here is how deep it went, because I want you to know I did not give up easily, and giving up was not the problem. After the first year, I did what a serious person does. I bought books, proper gardening books, the thick ones. I read the hydrangea sections cover to cover. I watched the videos. I read the care tag that came stuck in the pot, and I did exactly what it said. Water when the top inch is dry. Feed in spring. Prune to keep it tidy. I followed the instructions like a recipe, and it got worse, not better. Because here is the cruel thing I did not understand at the time. The advice I was reading was not wrong, exactly. It was just written for one kind of hydrangea, and I had no idea there was more than one kind. So I would read a perfectly correct instruction, written about a plant that blooms on new growth, and apply it faithfully to a plant that blooms on old growth, and quietly destroy my own flowers, and then blame myself when it did not work. I was following good advice and getting bad results, which is the single most confusing situation a person can be in, because it makes you feel like the problem must be you. If the instructions are right and it still fails, what else is there to blame but your own hands? So I doubled down on the one thing I thought I could control: care. More attention, more water, more feed, more tidying. If I could not be a clever gardener, I could at least be a diligent one. And every single one of those well-meaning efforts, I would later find out, was either useless or actively making things worse, because I was applying it blind to plants I could not tell apart. 3 years, 3 plants, the same invisible mistake on everyone. And then a neighbor said one sentence to me over a fence, and it all fell apart. The neighbor was leaning over the fence, looking at my big green flowerless bush, the healthy one that never bloomed. And she said, not unkindly, just curious, "Oh, that is one of the ones that flowers on old wood. Do you cut it back in the autumn?" And I said yes, proudly, because I did. Every autumn I tidied it right back, cleaned it up, made it neat for winter, like a good gardener. And she winced, just slightly. And she said, "That is why. You are cutting the flowers off before they ever open." I did not even understand the sentence. Cutting the flowers off? There were no flowers. That was the whole problem. How could I be cutting off flowers that were not there? And then she explained the thing that took me 3 years to hear, and I want you to really get this because it is the hinge the entire video turns on. She said the flower buds for next summer form in late summer and autumn on the current year's stems, and then they sit there all winter, invisible, waiting. And when I tidied up in autumn, I was cutting off stems that already had next year's flowers built into them. The buds were there, I just could not see them. Every autumn I had been carefully, diligently, responsibly removing every flower the plant was about to give me. I had not been failing to make it bloom. I had been amputating the blooms myself, on schedule, once a year, and then feeding it and wondering why it sulked. And in that moment, standing at the fence, something much bigger cracked open. Because I realized that if that was true, if there was a kind of hydrangea that flowered on old wood, then there must be a kind that did not, which meant there was not one hydrangea. There were different ones that behaved differently, that wanted completely different things. I had been treating them all as the same plant, and they were not the same plant at all. That was the one thing. Let me tell you exactly what it is. Here it is, the one thing, the single fact that ended 3 years of failure. A hydrangea is not one plant, it is 6. There are 6 different types of hydrangea sold in garden centers, and they wear the same name, and they look similar enough in a pot that you cannot tell them apart when you buy them. And they are, in every way that matters to a gardener, completely different plants. They want different amounts of sun. They get pruned at completely different times, some in autumn and some in spring, and doing it at the wrong time destroys the flowers. Only some of them can change color at all. And the reason a given one will not bloom is different depending on which it is. So there is no such thing as how to care for a hydrangea. The question has no answer. It is like asking how to care for a pet. A pet what? A goldfish and a horse are both pets, and if you treat the horse like the goldfish, or the goldfish like the horse, you kill it. That is exactly what I had been doing. I had one set of instructions, and I was applying it to 6 different animals. And the single most important line that runs through all of it, the fault line that everything cracks along, is this. Some hydrangeas bloom on old wood, and some bloom on new wood. Old wood means the plant forms next year's flower buds in late summer, on this year's stems, and carries them all through winter. New wood means it forms this year's buds in spring, on fresh new growth. That one distinction decides when you cut it, whether an autumn tidy is harmless or catastrophic, and half of why a plant will not bloom. I had never heard those words. Old wood, new wood. Nobody had ever said them to me. And they are the difference between a hydrangea that blooms and a bare green bush, between a cut that helps and a cut that erases a whole summer. Once I had that, I went back through all 3 of my failures, and every one of them fell apart in the light of it. Let me show you, because your failure is almost certainly in here too. Starting with the pruning. The mistake that cost me the most. The green bush that never bloomed. The one my neighbor was looking at. Let me tell you exactly what I had been doing to it, because it is the most common hydrangea tragedy there is, and it is a tragedy of good intentions. That plant was a big leaf hydrangea, the classic mophead, and it blooms on old wood, which, remember, means it built next summer's flower buds in late summer, on the stems standing there right now, and held them through the winter. And every autumn, I tidied it. I looked at this slightly scruffy shrub with its spent growth, and my sense of order kicked in, and I cut it back to make it neat for winter. I thought I was doing textbook care. Cut the plant back, tidy it up, put the garden to bed. Responsible, diligent. I was cutting off every single flower for the following year. All of them. The buds were already formed and sitting on those stems, invisible, and I was calmly snipping them off and dropping them on the ground and carrying them to the compost. every autumn, like clockwork. Then, in spring, the plant would push out fresh green leaves, look perfectly healthy, and produce nothing, because I had removed its entire reproductive efforts 6 months earlier. And here is the cruel genius of it, the thing that kept me trapped for 3 years. The punishment was delayed by 10 months. I cut in October. The failure showed up the following July. There is no way, as a normal person, to connect an action in autumn to an absence the following summer. So I never suspected the pruning. I blamed the soil, the weather, the feed, myself. And my response to no flowers was to feed it more, which just gave it more of the leafy green growth that was mocking me on a plant I had personally sterilized. Now, here is the part that makes it truly maddening, and that proves the whole point of this video. If that had been a different type of hydrangea, the exact same autumn cut would have been completely fine. A panicle hydrangea, or a smooth hydrangea, the Annabelle type, blooms on new wood. It makes its flower buds in spring, on fresh growth. You can cut those to the ground in autumn or late winter, and they bloom beautifully the same year. In fact, they want it. So the identical action, the autumn tidy, is either completely harmless or totally catastrophic. And the only thing that determines which is a piece of knowledge I did not have. Old wood or new wood. Same shears, same day, same cut, opposite result. One type thanks you. The other gives you 3 years of bare green misery. I had been doing the right thing to the wrong plant, confidently, on schedule. And the color was next, which was a different disaster entirely. Quick one, because if you are 3 minutes into recognizing your own hydrangea in these stories, I want to save you the 3 years it cost me. Everything that went wrong for me came from one gap. I could not tell my 6 plants apart, so I could not give any of them the right thing. The pruning, the color, the feeding, the sun, all of it traced back to not knowing which hydrangea was standing in front of me. If I had known that on day 1, I would have skipped the entire ordeal. So I did the thing I wish someone had handed me at the start. I put it all in one place. It is called the Hydrangea Mastery Guide, and it is the honest version of everything nobody told me. It sorts out all 6 types in about 90 seconds, so you can walk up to any hydrangea, yours or one in a pot at the shop, and know exactly what it is. It has the prune by type calendar, so you never do what I did and cut off a whole summer by accident. It explains the real reason the color changes, which is not the pH, whatever you were told. And it walks through the 5 myths that cost people, and cost me, entire seasons. 29 pages, $27, instant PDF, 7-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the description at waltgreer.com. And it ends the way this channel always ends, with the part nobody selling you a miracle will print. 4 of the 6 types cannot change color at all, no matter what you pour on them. Fertilizer will never fix a hydrangea that will not bloom. Because a guide that only tells you what to do is only half a guide, and half a guide is exactly what I had for 3 years. Now, the color. Because that was my 2nd year, and it was a different kind of failure entirely, and I made 2 separate mistakes at once without realizing either. Year 2, the color year. I was determined to turn a pink hydrangea blue, and I failed at it in 2 completely separate ways at the same time, which takes a special kind of bad luck. Except it was not luck, it was ignorance. Here is what I thought I knew. Hydrangea color is about the soil. Acidic soil gives blue, alkaline gives pink. Everybody knows that. So I bought the amendments, I poured them on all season, and the plant stayed exactly the washed-out pink it had always been. Nothing moved. Mistake number 1, and it is the big one. I never checked what type it was. The plant I was pouring all that effort onto was a panicle hydrangea, one of the cone-shaped ones. And panicle hydrangeas cannot change color, at all. It is not in them. Only 2 of the 6 types, big leaf and mountain, can shift between pink and blue. The other 4 are locked to whatever they are, and no soil amendment on earth moves them. So I spent a whole season, and real money, chasing a color change on a plant that was physically incapable of it. It was like trying to tune a radio that was actually a toaster. Mistake number 2, and this one I made later on a plant that genuinely could change, so it stung even more. I finally got hold of a real big leaf, one of the 2 types that can turn blue, and I went at the soil again, and it still barely moved, and I could not understand it. And the reason is the thing nobody tells you. It was never really about the pH directly. The color depends on whether the plant can pull aluminium out of the soil, and the pH is just the gate that lets the aluminium in or locks it out. If there is no aluminium available, or the pH keeps it locked up, you can chase the acidity all you like, and nothing happens. I had been treating the symptom and ignoring the actual mechanism, because the simple version, acid equals blue, is what everybody repeats. And there was a white one, briefly, that I also tried to turn, before somebody kindly told me that a white hydrangea has no color pigment to work with at all, and will be white no matter what you do, forever. So the color year was 3 plants and 3 impossibilities I could have ruled out in 90 seconds if I had known what I was looking at. Instead, I spent months and a small fortune arguing with plants that were never going to answer. And then there was the feeding, which was the subtlest failure of all. The feeding failure was the subtlest of the 3, because on the surface, it looked like the responsible thing to do, and because the plant genuinely seemed to be thriving the whole time it was letting me down. This was a healthy plant. Good leaves, good size, no scorch, no dieback. It just would not flower well, and the flowers it did give were sparse and small. And my instinct, every single time, was the same instinct anyone has. A plant that is not performing needs feeding. It needs a boost. So I bought fertilizer and I gave it a good feed, a nice general purpose one, high in nitrogen, and I gave it regularly, because clearly it needed the help. I was making it worse every time I fed it. Because nitrogen, the first number on the bag, is the leaf growth number. It drives lush green foliage, and it does it at the direct expense of flowers. So every feed I gave that plant, it turned straight into more leaves, bigger and greener and more vigorous, and fewer flowers. I was pouring the exact resource into it that told it to grow leaves instead of blooms, and then reading its leafy response as a sign it wanted even more. I had it backwards, completely, and my own diligence was the engine of the failure. And underneath that was a second thing I did not know, the timing thing. On the old wood types, those flower buds get set in late summer, which means a hydrangea's ability to bloom next year depends enormously on how it is treated in August and September, whether it is watered through late summer heat, whether it is stressed, whether it is cut. I had never once thought about my hydrangeas in late summer as doing anything important. To me, the show was over by then, and the plant was just coasting to autumn. I had no idea it was quietly building its entire next year in those weeks, and that a hot, dry August with no water could cost me the following June, 10 months later. So this plant was not underfed. It was overfed with the wrong thing, and neglected at the one time of year that actually mattered, by a person who thought feeding equaled caring, and that late summer did not count. 3 plants, 3 completely different failures: pruning, color, feeding. And every one of them came from the identical root cause. I could not tell my 6 plants apart, so I could not give any of them what it actually needed. But knowing the 6 types is not magic, and I want to be honest about what it does not fix. Because I do not want you to walk away thinking that identifying your 6 types is a magic key that fixes everything. It is not. It is the thing that lets you stop making unforced errors. But there are real limits, and the honest version of this story includes them, the same way this channel always does. Knowing the type will not make 4 of the 6 change color. I have to keep saying this because people so badly want it not to be true. If you have a panicle, a smooth, an oak leaf, or a climbing hydrangea, it is the color it is. Understanding that does not unlock a hidden ability. It just stops you wasting a season and a small fortune trying. the way I did. Knowing the type will not resurrect flowers that are already gone. If you cut off this year's buds, no amount of knowledge grows them back before next season. The knowledge is preventive, not curative. It stops next year's mistake. It cannot undo this year's. Knowing the type will not overcome the wrong climate. Some of these are only reliably hardy in milder zones, and if you are gardening somewhere with brutal winters, an old wood big leaf may lose its buds to the cold every single year, no matter how perfectly you prune and feed it, because the cold kills the buds over winter, regardless of you. Sometimes the honest answer is that a particular hydrangea is wrong for where you live, and the fix is a different, hardier type, not more effort on the wrong one. And fertilizer will still never fix a plant that will not bloom. If the buds were cut or frozen or aborted in a dry August, no feed on any shelf brings them back. Feeding a bloomless hydrangea is the single most common wasted gesture in all of gardening, and I know because I did it for years. So this is not a video that ends with everything solved forever. It ends with the unforced errors gone, which in my case was almost all of them. Knowing the 6 types did not make me a genius. It just stopped me being my own worst enemy. And that, in the end, is the whole thing. Before we finish, send this to one person you know who says they cannot grow hydrangeas. Just the link. Because I promise you, they do not have a black thumb any more than I did. They are almost certainly making one of the exact mistakes in this video on a plant they cannot tell apart from the other 5, and nobody has ever told them there are other 5. Now here is the whole thing, in one idea, the idea it took me 3 years to hear. A hydrangea is not one plant, it is 6. And almost everything that goes wrong with them goes wrong because somebody is treating 6 different plants as if they were the same one. I killed a mophead by putting it in blazing sun that a panicle would have loved. I sterilized a healthy bush by tidying it every autumn, cutting off flowers I could not see because it bloomed on old wood, and I did not know old wood was a thing. I chased blue on a plant that was physically incapable of turning, and then on a white one that had no pigment at all. And I fed a shy bloomer the exact nitrogen that told it to make leaves instead of flowers, while ignoring the 1 month, late summer, when it was quietly deciding my next year. Every one of those was the same mistake wearing a different coat. Not knowing which plant I had. And the fix was not a product, and it was not a green thumb, and it was not more effort. God knows I had effort. The fix was 30 seconds of identification. Learning to look at a hydrangea and know what it is, so that all the care I was already perfectly willing to give it could finally go in the right direction instead of the wrong one. That is the whole thing. I was never a bad gardener. I was a blindfolded one. And the day I took the blindfold off, the 3 worst years of my gardening life turned into the thing I now get asked about most. So if your hydrangea will not bloom, or will not change color, or comes back green and empty every spring, do not conclude what I concluded. You are not the problem. You just have not been told there are 6 of them. Now you have. So subscribe and hit the bell and stick around. We do this the honest way here in the Forgotten Knowledge Library. Real horticulture, exact rules, and we tell you straight, including when the honest answer is that the mistake was ours all along. It is free, and it always will be. And drop a comment and tell me which one you have killed, or which one is refusing to bloom for you right now, because I have made every mistake in this video, and I promise I will not judge a single one. Next time, another plant I failed for years before one simple idea turned it around. I will see you in the next one.